My boss denied me a break after bone tumor surgery, so I walked out and destroyed their busiest day of the year. She said it in front of the entire curbside team. I'm in pain too. This is a team effort. Unless you have a doctor's note, you can't leave for break. I was standing in the back hallway near the loading dock. The fluorescent lights were buzzing overhead, that constant hum that makes your head ache if you listen too long. My left leg was screaming, not sore, not tired, but genuine pain that made my vision blur at the edges. Sharp, shooting. The kind of pain that makes you wonder if something inside is breaking. I could feel sweat on my palms. My hands were shaking. I was trying not to cry in front of her because I knew if I started, I wouldn't stop. Two other employees were standing nearby, pretending not to listen. One of them glanced at me, then looked away fast. The other one was suddenly very interested in his phone. The shift leader didn't even make eye contact, just kept scrolling through her tablet like I was interrupting her day with something trivial. I had a doctor's note. It was in my file. She knew about my surgery. Everyone knew. I didn't argue. I just nodded and limped back to the floor. The store was chaos. Sunday was always our busiest day, but this one felt worse. The parking lot was packed before we even opened. Cars were lined up at curbside pickup like a funeral procession. Engines running, people checking their phones impatiently. I was running orders out to trunks, hauling bags that felt like they weighed 50 pounds each, scanning barcodes with fingers that were starting to go numb from gripping plastic handles, smiling at customers who didn't tip and didn't say thank you and sometimes didn't even look up from their phones. The air smelled like exhaust and hot asphalt. It was one of those humid days where the sun felt personal, like it was targeting you specifically. Every time I stepped outside, the heat hit me like a wall. Every time I came back in, the air conditioning made my sweat go cold. I'd been back at work for 2.5 weeks. Before that, I'd been off for months. Back in January, they found a tumor in my tibia, left leg, the kind of thing that makes doctors go quiet when they look at the x-ray. They don't say, it's fine or don't worry. They just go silent and start typing very carefully into their computer. I remember sitting in that exam room, staring at the poster on the wall about hand-washing techniques, waiting for the doctor to say something, anything. The silence stretched out so long I started to wonder if he'd forgotten I was there. Then he turned around and said, we need to get you to an oncologist soon. Oncologist? Cancer doctor. The word hit me like a punch. The waiting was the worst part. Waiting for appointments, waiting for scans, waiting to find out if it was cancer or just a really aggressive, benign tumor that happened to be eating through my bone like acid. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. Every time my phone rang, I thought it was the doctor calling with bad news. By April, I finally got in to see a surgeon. He was older, calm, the kind of guy who'd seen everything. He pulled up my scans on his computer and showed me the tumor. It looked like a dark cloud spreading through the white of my bone. He pointed to it with his pen and said, this is serious. You can't keep working on this leg. I tried to argue. Told him I needed to work, that I had bills, that I couldn't afford to take more time off. He cut me off. You don't understand. If you keep putting weight on this, the bone is going to snap clean through. You'll be in surgery anyway, but it'll be an emergency, and the damage will be worse. You want to walk again? You stop. Now. I had surgery in June. They cut into my leg, scraped out the tumor, patched me back together with hardware I'll have for the rest of my life, and told me recovery would take months. Real recovery. Not the kind where you limp back to work in 2 weeks because rent is due and your savings account is a joke. But that's exactly what I did. I came back early because they kept calling, texting, asking when I'd be back, telling me how short-staffed they were, how they really needed me, how nobody else could handle curbside like I could. I felt guilty, felt like I was letting everyone down. So when the surgeon cleared me technically, on paper, with a long list of warnings, I went back. He pulled me aside before I left his office and said, listen to your body. You push too hard. You're going to regret it. That bone is still healing. It's not as strong as it used to be. You overdo it. You could fracture it again, and next time we might not be able to fix it. I nodded, thanked him, ignored every word. The first week back was rough. My leg ached constantly. Not sharp pain, just a deep, grinding discomfort that never really went away. But I pushed through, told myself it was normal, that it would get better. The second week was worse. The ache turned into stiffness. I started limping more, needing to sit down between orders, taking longer breaks in the bathroom just to get off my feet for a few minutes. My coworkers noticed. A few of them asked if I was okay. I lied and said I was fine. One guy, older, who'd had knee surgery a few years back, pulled me aside and said, you're pushing too hard. I did the same thing, ended up making it worse. Don't be stupid like me. I thanked him, kept working anyway. By the third week this week, I could barely make it through a shift, but I kept showing up, kept smiling, kept pretending everything was fine because I didn't want to seem weak. Didn't want to give them a reason to fire me or cut my hours. And then came Sunday. About an hour and a half into my shift, my leg gave out. Not sore, not tired, pain so sharp it felt like someone had stuck a knife into the bone and twisted. I had to grab the edge of a shelf to keep from falling. My vision went white for a second. The world tilted. I took a breath, steadied myself, blinked until the black spots cleared, and kept moving because that's what you do. You keep moving. You smile. You don't make a scene. But it wasn't getting better. It was getting worse. Every step felt like the bone was grinding against itself, like something inside was loose and rattling around where it shouldn't be. I was limping between aisles, trying to smile at customers, trying to act normal while my entire body screamed at me to sit down, to stop, to get off this leg before something terrible happened. A customer asked me where the pasta sauce was. I pointed toward aisle 7, my voice shaking, and watched her walk away without even saying thank you. Another one asked me to help load a case of water into her trunk. I smiled and said of course, even though lifting that case made stars explode behind my eyes. I tried to push through, told myself it was just soreness, that I was being weak, that everyone else was working just as hard and they weren't complaining. But by the time I made it back inside from my 4th trip to the parking lot, I was barely holding it together. My hands were shaking. My breathing was shallow. I felt lightheaded. I leaned against the wall in the back hallway for a moment, trying to catch my breath. That's when one of the other curbside workers walked past and asked if I was okay. Fine, I said. Just need a second. He didn't look convinced, but he nodded and kept walking. I found my shift leader near the registers. She was talking to another employee about something, laughing about a customer complaint. I waited until she was done, then stepped up and asked if I could take my break 20 minutes early, explained that I couldn't walk, that I just needed to sit down and rest my leg so I didn't cause a real problem. So I didn't end up in the ER because I pushed too hard and something snapped. She looked at me like I was lying, like I was trying to pull something, like I was one of those employees who makes up excuses to get out of work on the busiest day. I'm in pain too, she said flatly. This is a team effort. Unless you have a doctor's note, you can't leave for break. I stared at her, waited for her to realize what she'd just said, waited for her to remember that I'd just come back from major surgery, that I had a note, that this wasn't about being lazy or trying to coast, that I was asking for 20 minutes because I was genuinely scared something was wrong. She didn't say anything else, just turned and walked away, like the conversation was over, like I was dismissed. I stood there for a moment, feeling the heat rise in my face, feeling the pain pulse through my leg with every heartbeat, feeling humiliated and furious and completely powerless. The other employee who'd been standing there, the one she'd been laughing with, wouldn't even look at me, just pretended to be busy with something on her phone. 5 minutes later, she came back and told me I could go on break. No apology, no acknowledgement that she'd been wrong, just a cold, flat, fine, go. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I didn't realize it was that bad. Just, fine, go. Like she was doing me some huge favor. I limped to the break room and sat down. My leg was throbbing. My hands were still shaking. I sat there staring at the vending machine, trying to breathe through the pain, and that's when it hit me. I was done. This wasn't the first time. A month ago, she'd scheduled me for a double shift without asking. When I told her I couldn't do it because of my leg, because the surgeon had specifically warned me not to push myself like that, she rolled her eyes and said, "Everyone's tired. We all have to make sacrifices." I'd tried to explain that it wasn't about being tired, that it was about not re-injuring myself, that my doctor had given me specific instructions. She cut me off. "Look, I don't have time for this. Either you can work or you can't. Which is it?" I worked the double, came home that night barely able to stand, took 3 ibuprofen and cried in the shower because my leg hurt so badly I couldn't think straight. 2 weeks ago, she'd accused me of not pulling my weight because I asked to switch from carry-out to cashier for one shift. I explained that standing in one place was easier on my leg than running back and forth to the parking lot 50 times a day. She told me I needed to toughen up and that everyone deals with pain. "You think you're the only one with problems?" she'd said. "I've got a bad back. Sarah's got arthritis. Mike's got a bum knee. We all just deal with it." A week ago, she'd made a comment in front of the whole team about how some people just don't want to work anymore. She didn't say my name, but everyone knew who she was talking about. I was the only one who'd been out on medical leave, the only one who'd asked for accommodations. I'd brought it up to management, told them she was making it difficult for me to follow my doctor's orders, that she was creating a hostile environment, that I felt like I was being punished for having surgery. The manager, the same one I'd eventually quit to, had nodded sympathetically, said he understood, said he'd talk to her, said he'd look into it. I followed up a week later. He said he'd spoken to her and that everything should be fine now. Nothing changed. If anything, it got worse. She started scheduling me for the hardest shifts, the longest ones, the ones nobody else wanted. Sunday openings, Saturday closes, back-to-back days with no breaks in between. When I asked why, she said, "You're one of our best workers. I need you when it's busy." It didn't feel like a compliment. It felt like punishment. And now she was risking my health, my actual physical health, because she didn't believe me, because she thought I was faking it, because in her mind, I was just another lazy employee trying to get out of work. I sat in that break room for 15 minutes, didn't eat, didn't scroll through my phone, just sat there feeling the weight of every humiliation, every dismissal, every moment I'd swallowed my anger and gone back to work because I needed this job, because I couldn't afford to lose it, because I'd already been out of work for months and my savings were gone and my medical bills were piling up. But sitting there, feeling that pain shoot through my leg, feeling the humiliation burn in my chest, I realized something. I didn't need this job. Not like this. Not if it meant destroying my body. Not if it meant working for someone who saw me as disposable. When the timer on my phone went off, I stood up. I didn't go back to the floor. I walked straight to the front of the store and found one of the managers. He was standing near customer service, talking to someone about a return. I waited until he was done, then stepped up and looked him in the eye. "I'm done," I said. "I quit." He blinked. "What?" "I quit. Right now. I'm done." His face went through about 5 different expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, panic. He glanced toward the back of the store, toward curbside, like he was already calculating how screwed they were. "Wait, hold on," he said. "Let's talk about this. Did something happen?" I asked for a break because I couldn't walk. She told me no. "I'm done talking." "Okay, I understand you're upset, but I'm not upset. I'm done. There's a difference." He tried again. Told me we could work it out, that he'd talk to the shift leader, that maybe I just needed to cool off, that we could discuss it after my shift, that quitting in the middle of Sunday was going to leave everyone in a bad spot. "You should have thought about about that before you let her treat me like garbage for 3 weeks, I said. I didn't wait for a response, just turned around, walked to the time clock, and punched out. The clock read 11:47 a.m. Sunday, the busiest day of the week. The store was drowning. I could hear the chaos from the front customers yelling about wait times, phones ringing non-stop, orders piling up on the screens because there weren't enough people to fill them. I grabbed a shopping cart and started walking through the aisles, picking up groceries I actually needed. A few minutes later, I heard my name over the intercom. Name to curbside. Name to curbside. I actually laughed out loud. A woman shopping near me gave me a weird look. I didn't care. They thought I was coming back. They thought this was negotiable. They thought I'd cool off in the break room and come slinking back because I needed the job too much to actually quit. I kept shopping, grabbed milk, bread, eggs, a few other things I needed for the week. Took my time, examined labels, compared prices, let them page me again. Name to curbside, please. Name to curbside. The announcement sounded more urgent this time. I could hear the frustration in the voice. I smiled and kept walking. I passed by the curbside area on my way to get cereal. It was absolute chaos. Orders were stacked up on the counter. The computer screens were flashing red with late pickups. Customers were lined up at the desk, some of them visibly angry, demanding to know where their orders were. My shift leader was there, barking orders at 2 employees who looked completely lost. One of them was new, started last week, had no idea how the system worked. The other one usually worked in produce. She was staring at the screen like it was written in a foreign language. My shift leader saw me walk by with my cart. Our eyes met for a split second. I watched her face change, watched the realization hit. She opened her mouth like she was going to say something, then closed it again. I kept walking. By the time I got paged a third time, I was already heading toward the checkout. I could see employees running around in the back, stressed and frantic. The curbside area was a disaster. Orders were stacking up, customers were probably complaining, and the one person who knew the system inside and out, the one person who could handle the Sunday rush without falling apart, was buying groceries with a cart full of food and a smile on his face. That's when I saw him. My main boss, the store manager, the guy who'd hired me, the guy who'd told me to take all the time I needed when I first got diagnosed, and then acted annoyed every time I actually needed accommodations. He just walked in for his shift. He was wearing his usual polo and khakis, walking fast toward the back like he was already putting out fires. Probably got called in early because Sunday was a nightmare and they were short-staffed. Then he saw me, standing in the checkout line, cart full of groceries, still in my work uniform, name tag still clipped to my shirt. He stopped dead, stared at me. I watched his face change, watched the exact moment it clicked, the exact moment he realized I wasn't just shopping on break, that I'd quit, that I'd walked out in the middle of the busiest shift of the year and left them completely, utterly screwed. His expression went cold, hard, his jaw tightened. I could see the anger flash across his face, the disbelief, the frustration. He gave me this sharp, furious side glance, like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Then he turned his head away, couldn't even stand to look at me, just kept walking toward the back, moving faster now, like he was trying to pretend he hadn't seen me at all. I didn't say a word, just stood there, waited for the cashier to scan my items, paid, grabbed my bags, and walked past him toward the exit. I'd opened every single shift that week, Monday through Sunday, 7 days straight because they were desperate, and I'd said yes because I always said yes. I was the only one who knew the curbside system inside and out, the only one who could juggle 10 orders at once without screwing up, the only one who could handle the Sunday rush without melting down. They'd relied on me completely, built the entire Sunday schedule around me, assumed I'd always be there because I always had been, and I left them drowning. No notice, no backup, no one trained to take my place, just chaos and panic and a store full of angry customers who didn't care why their orders were late. As I walked out the door, I could hear the phones ringing, hear customers complaining at the service desk, hear my shift leader's voice cutting through the noise, sharp and panicked, barking orders at people who had no idea what they were doing. I got in my car, put my groceries in the back seat, sat there for a moment with my hands on the wheel, feeling the adrenaline start to fade, feeling the pain in my leg settle into a dull, constant ache. My phone buzzed. Text message from the manager I'd quit to. Can we please talk about this? I deleted it, blocked his number. Another text came through. The shift leader this time. You really screwed us over. Thanks a lot. I stared at it for a moment. Then I typed back. I had a doctor's note. You should have believed me. I blocked her too. Then I smiled, started the engine, and drove away. I didn't look back.